Welcome back to another great episode of Lokar Car Show. Today we travel to dazzling Destin, Florida for the hot, burning up the beaches car show. We have classic muscle cars, trucks, and more. Most importantly, we have the stories of the people behind the wheel. Rick Yenter is the owner of a 1957 Bel Air that he bought back in 1968. Today, he and his wife Nancy bought her 1969 Camaro SS. Rick has restored both cars to original condition, and Nancy says that's the way they like them. They are not a trailering family and split the driving responsibilities. Their fondness for classic Chevrolets brings them together, but I will let them tell you the story.
Back in 1969, I bought my first Camaro, and it was awesome, and I loved it. And I could not keep it for financial reasons. So when I met my husband, he kind of felt sorry for me, and so he went ahead and bought me another one so I could do it again all over. We travel around quite a bit. We go to Emerald Coast cruising and cruising the coast with it. We have local cruise-ins almost every weekend all summer long in Panama City where we live. And we're planning on going up to Iowa to a car show up there, the Good Guys Car Show in Des Moines, and in July. And we also take his 57 Bel Air with us too.
We drive it every weekend usually, year round. We live down
somewhere.
Here, and we take it out and drive it. Yeah.
We restored it back to original, so it's awesome. We like to go back to original. I like keeping things original. I think it brings back more memories than if you just redo everything.
The next car we're going to take a look at is a 1967 Firebird 400 owned by Jay Stelly. Jay sold a 1967 Chevelle SS because he and his wife said it was time for a change. The couple was looking for a Firebird, and 1967 was the first year they were produced by GM. Jay found this super clean car in Melbourne, Florida. This is a resto mod with a few changes. Jay's purpose for the purchase and modifications is to drive the car. Jay, tell us what changes you made to this gorgeous green Firebird and why.
Prior to owning this one, I owned a 1967 Chevelle Super Sport for about 6 years, and it was time for it to move on to somebody else. I enjoyed it. Found another gentleman that really liked it, so let him have that one. I was always looking for a Firebird, and found a 1967 Firebird that was really clean. So we picked that one up, and we've enjoyed that one for the last about a year and a half. It had an automatic transmission in it. Didn't like that because it's a sports car, so I took that transmission out. We put a Tremec 5-speed in it. We recently did the interior and changed the wheels and tires, and that's about all I've done to it in the last year. Well, they're always a work in progress. So yeah, the next things that I want to do, I want to get the seat belts hooked up because they don't have a shoulder harness, and I'm going to drive the car. That's one of the reasons I got this one. I want to be able to drive it across the country if I want to. Need some rear end work. I'm going to put a positive traction unit in it, but really nothing major, just some little stuff.
Do you remember that 1967 Chevelle SS I told you that Jay sold before buying the Firebird? John Nevin bought that car as a special gift for himself. He hasn't had to do much to the car, but driving it makes him reminisce about restoring a 67 with his father when he was in high school. That Chevelle has since been wrecked, and after years of service, John bought this beauty from Jay.
When I was in high school, I had one in high school. It was a 1967 Chevelle. It was a 3-speed on the column with a 6-cylinder. My dad and I restored it partially, repainted it, did the interior. I wrecked it my senior year in high school after I joined the Navy. Before I went to overseas to Rota, Spain, my dad talked me into selling the car. I sold it, and throughout my naval career, I always wished I had it back. I recently retired 2 years ago. I did 26 years in the Navy, and this is my retirement gift to myself. I bought it off of Jay. It was at a car show in Freeport, Florida, and just stumbled across it and started talking to Jay about it and kind of gave him the history of why I wanted one again. and we struck a deal up and he sold it to me. I've had it for about a year now. I remember stripping the car down to bare metal and hand sanding it and priming it. And the night it was painted in a shop at a friend of my dad's house, just the hours we put into it, rebuilding the motor, putting the transmission, taking the transmission out, it just, a lot of heartfelt memories that I have. I do drive it a lot, although Jay kind of kids me. I just recently bought a trailer for it. I'm originally from Mobile, so I trailer it back and forth to Mobile to shows and up northern Alabama and things like that. But I do drive it quite often, but depending on where the car shows are at, I do trailer it. I take it out about once a week, just ride around, take it to local car shows here in the area. Other than that, don't do much with it. It's got its own one-bedroom apartment that it stays in, and just ride it whenever I can.
Before the break, let's take a few seconds to hear from the host of Burning Up the Beaches, Destin Commons. Marketing manager Heather Ruiz informs us why they are the hottest spot for classic cars to burn up the beaches.
Today we are so excited to be hosting Burning Up the Beaches here at beautiful Destin Commons in Destin, Florida. We are the open-air lifestyle shopping center for the best in shopping, dining, and entertainment on the Emerald Coast. Destin Commons has over 95 stores and restaurants, as well as entertainment options, everything ranging from Bass Pro Shops to H&M, a movie theater, and also an underwater-themed bowling alley called Uncle Buck's Fish Bowl and Grill. Destin Commons has always been a stop for the poker run that usually accompanies Burning Up the Beaches, but we were fortunate enough this year to become the new host site for the all-day event on Saturday. We've been voted the best stop by all of the participants in the poker run for years past and are very excited to now host the show here on Saturday.
It's time for a quick break from the sweltering heat of Burning Up the Beaches. You don't want to miss the beautiful cars and heartfelt stories still to come from Destin, Florida. The Lokar Car Show, presented by Original Parts Group, is brought to you by ARP, proudly made in the USA, the world leader in fastener technology. Original Parts Group, world-class restoration parts. Lokar, quality, plain and simple. And by National Parts Depot, make your dream happen. We're going to shift gears here at Burning Up the Beaches and take a look at classic pickup trucks. The pickups are as beautiful as the cars, and the stories of the owners may bring a tear to your eye. Tony Delgadillo built this 1964 Chevy Fleetside pickup, but not alone. There have been hardships along the way for he and his family with this long bed. Perseverance has made the truck into the hot candy apple red Chevy and a family favorite.
Well, this truck is a family truck. We started probably around like maybe 6-7 years. Nothing but family started the truck. I mean, for like 4 years, like I say. I mean, it was really hard. It was a lot of stress release for the family. We build this truck when we have a lot of family problems, so we enjoy the time. 1-2 o'clock in the morning, working in the truck every day. A little bit of money here and there. I mean, unfortunately, you know, after we build it, we enjoyed for like 3 months. And we was right here exactly in Destin Commons with the truck calling fire. I mean, it was really sad for everybody. We started getting some money for the insurance, a little bit here and there, and start rebuilding again. But yeah, I mean, we enjoy the truck, I mean, every time we can. We put a 454 engine on it. We got the wood mahogany wood in the back. Put some candy apple, red paint, leather seats. I mean, we're working pretty much everywhere.
Another Chevy pickup at the car show we're going to look at is this baby blue 1957, owned by Tom Hadley. Tom restored the pickup, mostly, but he's going to tell you that story. His wife came up with the humorous but true plaque you may see under the hood. Pay attention to detail on this ride, because Tom did.
Well, we put a friend of mine and I put a Fat Man 2 front end under it, We've got a GM crate performance engine under it, 300 horsepower approximately, with a 700R transmission. It's got a 20-gallon gas tank, so we can do a lot of cruising. It's basically just lowered, and it's got cruise control, air conditioning, it's got vintage air, and Dakota cruise control, which makes it really nice for traveling. We're from West Central Florida, and quite a drive up here, but it was really comfortable coming up in it. Well, I brought it home. I retired early, and about 2 weeks after I retired, I realized I needed to do something other than sit on the couch. So I pulled this home, and when she saw it, it was in a million pieces. She said, that'll never be on the highway. But about 7 or 8 months, it was finished. And so she went and bought a plaque. It's under the hood. It says 100% or 95% built by 100% amateur. And I think it's pretty special. So.
It's time for Lokar Lowdown with Kevin Ford.
Let me tell you about some new products we've got down here at Lokar. We know you guys are looking for that cutting edge product, that product that just makes your car stand out from the crowd. Well, over the past couple years, we've worked with Goolsby Customs, and I think we've come up with a couple that will really help you do that. In this case, we've got a dash insert that's styled after an Auburn dash, but in this case, we've actually downsized it and changed the shape, so you don't have to go modifying your dash, cutting it up, and making all kinds of mess out of your car. You can take your factory 32 dash panel, cut a hole in it, put our dash in with the provided tabs and brackets, and you're done. It bolts in. It comes pre-finished. We have it in polished, and we've got it with 3 different color inserts that are interchangeable. I mean, if you change your mind in the future, you can change them too. But we've got tortoiseshell that we have here. We've got a mother of pearl finish, which is a nice white pearl look. And then we've got an engine turn finish, which everybody would be familiar with, and it kind of styles after the actual Auburn dash. We didn't stop there. We kind of went down and added some door sill plates for a 32 Ford as well. They come with the same 3 finish options, and they tie in nicely with many of the other products that we've worked with Goolsby and some of the normal Lokar products as well. If you want to check them out, we'd love to have you go to our website at lokar.com or find us at any of the many shows we go to through the year.
Back to the classics. Larry Pizek brought 2 beauties to this car show, his 1939 Mercury Coupe and his mustache. Love and dedication is obvious on this build, and the finished product is absolutely stunning. Larry learned to weld in order to build this car and has helped some of his buddies out too. It is a miracle that this car is still a car, listening to Larry's story of the restoration.
It's a 1939 Mercury Coupe. I bought it as a restored a while back car ago in Michigan in 2003. I brought it home to Central Florida and commenced to decide I was going to build a street rod out of it. So I took the body off the frame, I chopped the car 4 inches. It was a rust bucket underneath the paint that was there. So I spent a lot of time, I'm not a body man, but I spent a lot of time making all the panels because 39 was the first year for Mercury, and no one makes a patch panel for a car that they only made 8,400 of. So I had to make everything. The bottoms of the doors were rotten, the hood was rotten, the drip rails I had to cut off and fill that with welding rod. The rear pan underneath the trunk was made out of an old galvanized hot water heater that somebody had brazed in years ago. So as I was working on doing that, I took the body off the frame, put the frame on a homemade rotisserie so I could box the frame from front to back, did all the suspension work, all the fuel lines, everything's brand new, everything's boxed with 1/8-inch steel plate. The motor is a 401 nail head out of a 65 Buick Wildcat, along with a turbo 400 rear end, or a transmission, and a 8-inch Ford with 279 gears in the back. Like I said, the big thing was trying to find parts. There's nothing that you can buy for one, you know, so you can't go down to the local 40 Ford store and buy a dash panel or a gauge panel or anything. You gotta either restore what you got, no matter how bad it is, or make it yourself.
Time for another break from the heat here in Destin, Florida. Don't go away, because we have more cars and owners to introduce you to. The Lokar Car Show, presented by Original Parts Group, is brought to you by ARP, proudly made in the USA, the world leader in fastener technology. Original Parts Group, world-class restoration parts. Lokar, quality, plain and simple. And by National Parts Depot, make your dream happen. Resto Parts Restoration, powered by Original Parts Group.
I would like to take a minute and talk to you guys about our Resto Parts pedal pad kits. We make them to exact factory specs, and we make them for 4-speed automatics all the way from the gas pedal to the e-brake pedal. But there is some issues on your brake pedal pads on installing them, and simple tricks that'll help that out. Think about it for a second. They get tons of use, they get worn out, they get ripped. You know, push the, you're working underneath your dash, you push it with your foot, something happens. So replacing them is a very common thing. So there's a lot of questions on them. So here's the first one. What I like to do is I like to give them a little bit of heat. Stick them out in the sun for a little bit, put a heat gun on them if you're inside a garage or if you're working at night. And that helps with the pliability of it, and it makes it a lot easier to install. Second thing I like to do is weather strip glue. Either black weather strip glue or black silicone works out. I like the weather strip glue. It doesn't stick on there very much and won't create any issues later on. Silicone tends to get a little bit hard. So just put a little bit on your pedal, not a lot. And what this does is ensures that there's no slippage on it. It saves the corners of your pedal, okay? And it gives it a lot longer life. Once you put the glue on there, you can either do it on the pedal itself or on the pad. You start with the bottom. It's the most narrow side of the pedal pad itself. Bend the corners over. Once you got those in, you get the upper corners. And get those in place. Very easy install. You let that dry. When you're done, you got a perfectly restored pedal, and also one that'll last a lot longer than usual.
Dennis Brunick restored this car after owning it for a long time. He had help from two of the people you have already met, Larry Pyzik and Tom Hadley. He says for him, working on these cars are as much about the camaraderie as the car. Listen to when he bought this car and how much he paid for it. It may blow your mind.
Well, when I was 16 years old, this was sitting in the trees across the road from my grandpa's farm back in South Dakota, not running, and I bought it from the gentleman for $35. It was about 6 miles from our farm, and my dad and I towed it home behind, actually behind his 1940 M Farmall. And we brought it back to our farm, and I took the engine out and rebuilt the engine well enough to get it running, but probably not a really good job. But I drove the car for 1 year, and due to my lack of mechanical knowledge, the engine kind of gave out, and so I parked it at that time.
Terry Bourne brought his first car to the Burning Up the Beaches car show. It is a Resto Mod Corvette, nicely built after many devastating events. He has owned this car for over 40 years and dragged it around with him, refusing to sell.
Well, I bought this car in 1968. I was 17 years old. The car was completely tore apart. It took me 3 days to put it together, tow it home. I paid $650 for it. I drove it for about a year. I worked for Chevrolet. There was no paint on it, and I got the car painted. And what happened in them days with the metal flake issue, I had crushed mirror that was put on in the clear, and we sprayed that on it. Well, I was wanting to service, and when I left to go for basic training, I didn't have a place to keep it, so I covered the car with Bisqueen. The sun hit the biscuit, melted into the paint. When I come back, I just was disgusted, and I laid the car up for over 40 years. And 4 years ago, I've been having the car for 48 years. 4 years ago, I decided I was going to go ahead and fix it, and I just did a body restoration on it. Got an LS3 460E transmission in it. Got a C4 chassis underneath it. It's really a resto mod, but I wanted the original look. Well, what happened, this car actually, we live in Venetian houses in New Orleans. The car actually, Katrina hit us. We had 5 foot of water in our house, tornado tore the roof off. This car was downstairs. So it actually blew it out of the building and ripped the trunk off, but there was no engine and no, the drive line was underneath it, but that's all. And once we got the house and all back together, that's when I decided, I said, you know what, it's time to fix this car. And because I had it, like I said, I laid up, everywhere I moved to, the car followed me. I had people wanting to buy it, you know how that is, swatting me for things. But I never would let it go because I've always been a Corvette guy. So I got 2 other Corvettes, and it's just, certain things you just like, and you just, you don't want to. And I had it for so long, I said no. That's why I redid everything in it. Like I said, it took me 4 years. It took a year to start on a body, took a year and a half to paint, and then a year and a half because I had the chassis built in San Antonio. And just took a lot of time to put it together, but it was all worth it in the end.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in for another great episode of Lokar Car Show. Make sure to mark your calendar, set your DVD, or whatever you need to do to not miss next week's episode. We're going to take you to Ocean City, Maryland for the Ocean City Cruise In. There will be more cars and great stories from the owners.